Decision-making tools helps organizations identify all the activities that must take place for a decisions to be made and executed well. Using these tools, organizations determine and define the rules that individuals will play in decisions of different types.
Problem analysis. Problem analysis is the process of understanding real-world problems and user needs and proposing solutions to meet those needs. The goal of the problem analysis is to gain a better understanding of the problem being solved before developing a solution. Problem analysis is therefore involves identifying the overriding problem and establishing the causes and effects related to that problem. A key element of this analysis will ensure that root causes, not just the symptoms of the problem, are identified and subsequently addressed in the project design. There are 5 useful steps that can be taken to gain a better understanding of the problem before developing a solution. First is to identify the problem. Second is to understand the root causes, the problem behind the problem. Root cause analysis is one of the most important elements of the problem solving and quality management. There are varieties of techniques used to gain an understanding of the real problem and its real causes. Among these techniques are Pareto chart, 5 whys, and fishbone diagram. Pareto chart. A Pareto chart is a histogram or bar chart combined with a line graph that groups the frequency or cost of different problems to show their relative significance. The bar shows frequency in descending order, while the line shows cumulative percentage or total as you move from left to right. 5 whys. The 5 whys is a method that uses a series of questions to drill down into successive layers of a problem. The basic idea is that each time you ask why, the answer becomes the basis of the next why. It's a simple tool useful for problems where you don't need advanced statistics, so you don't necessarily want to use it for complex problems. Fishbone diagram. A fishbone diagram sorts possible causes into various categories that branch off from the original problem, also called a cause and effect or Ishikawa diagram. A fishbone diagram may have multiple sub-causes branching off of each identified category. The third step is to identify the stakeholders and the users. Stakeholders typically have varying perspectives on the problem and various needs that must be addressed by the solution. So, involving stakeholders will help you determine the root causes to problems. Is to define the solution boundary. Once the problem statement is agreed to and the users and stakeholders are identified, we can turn our attention of defining a solution that can be deployed to address the problem. Here, we can analyze what exactly to do after identifying the problem. Lastly is to identify the constraints imposed in solutions, meaning we need to know if there are limits or restrictions against the solution you have implemented.
Decision-making, essentially a rational or a sound decision-making, is taken as a primary function of management. Every manager takes hundreds and hundreds of decisions, subconsciously or consciously, making it as the key component in the role of the manager. Decision-making process is continuous and indispensable component of managing any organizations or business activities. Decisions are made to sustain the activities of all business activities and organizational functioning. According to Sriwada and Newport, decision-making process as follows. Decision-making involves the selection of a course of action from among 2 or more possible alternatives in order to arrive at solution for a given problem. You must be thinking what is the difference between the problem analysis and decision making. So the key difference between problem solving and decision making is that solving problem is a process, whereas making decisions is an action based on insights derived during the problem solving process. Problem solving is an analytical process used to identify the possible solutions to the situation at hand, and decision making is a choice made by using one's judgment. Both problem solving and decision making involve critical thinking. Both problem solving and decision making go hand in hand, but success in one doesn't automatically lead to the other. You can be adept at problem solving or finding the root of an issue and still lack the decision-making skills to choose and action viable next steps to bring about a success outcome.
Decision making is a process of making choices by identifying a decision, gathering information, and assessing alternatives for solution. Using a step-by-step decision-making process can help you make more deliberate, thoughtful decisions by organizing relevant information and defining alternatives. This approach increases the chances that you will choose the most satisfying alternatives possible. Let's proceed the step 1. Identify the decision you realize that you need to make a decision. Try to clearly define the nature of the decision you must make. This first step is very important. Step 2. Gather relevant information. Collect some pertinent information before you make your decision. What information is needed, the best sources of information, and how to get it. This step involves both internal and external work. Some information is internal. You seek it through the process of self-assessment. Other information is external. You find it online, in books, from other people and from other sources. So step 3, identifying the alternatives as you collect information. You will probably identify several possible path of action or alternatives. You can also use your imagination and additional information to construct new alternatives. In this step, you will list all possible and desirable alternatives. Step 4. With the evidence, draw in your information and emotion to imagine what it would be like if you carried out each of the alternatives to the end. Evaluate whether the need identified in step 1 will be met or resolved through the use of each alternative. As you go through this difficult internal process, you begin to favor certain alternatives. This that seem to have a higher potential for reaching your goal. Finally, place the alternatives in a priority order based upon your own value system. Step 5. Choose among alternatives once you have with all the evidence. You are ready to select the alternatives that seems to be best one for you. You may even choose a combination of alternatives. Your choice in step 5 may very likely be the same or similar to the alternatives you placed at the top of your list at the end of the step 4. So step 6 is that take action. You're now ready to take some positive action by beginning to implement the alternatives you choose in step 5. Step 7. Review your decision and its consequence in these final steps. Consider the result of your decision and evaluate whether or not it has resolved the need you identify in step 1. If the decision has not met the identified need, you may want to repeat certain step or process to make a new decision. For example, is you want to gather more details or somewhat different information or explore additional alternatives.
What is analysis of alternatives? An analysis of alternatives, also called as AOA, is an assessment of various options present for reaching a goal. This usually involves sensitivity analysis, which is when the evaluation of quantitative estimations and calculations gets changed in an orderly way to assess their effect on the end result. So, on the other hand, AOA is a process for evaluating multiple options prior to making an investment decision. It is part of the decision making when looking at existing portfolios, programs, and projects, or while initiating a new project. This decision-making process helps you find cost-effective actions and avoid unnecessary effort application. Using AOA will help reduce the risk of project failure. The AOA establishes and benchmark metrics for cost, schedule, performance, and risk. It moves away from employing a single accusation source to the exploration of multiple alternatives so organizations have a basis for funding the best possible project in a rational, defensible manner considering risk and uncertainty. How does analysis of alternatives work? An analysis of alternatives provides a foundation to always assess and compare the advantage of various solutions for providing necessary capability to certain end users.
Here are the steps in AOA. The step 1 is plan. Determine the goals, schedule, stakeholders, funding, team, and deliverables. Step 2. Establish analysis foundation. Determine the problem and scope being addressed and the ground rules and assumptions. The step 3. Identify and define alternatives. Identify the alternatives to the problem set. Step 4. Assess alternatives. Assess of each of the alternatives identified. Step 5. Compare alternatives. Determine the pros and cons of alternative solutions. The step 6. Report results. Document results for decision makers. The step 7. The last step. Follow up.
Decision-making style. Research of decision style has identified 4 different individual approaches to making decisions. First is directive style. People using this style have a low tolerance for ambiguity and seek of rationality. The second is analytic style. People using this style have a much greater tolerance for ambiguity than to directive decision makers.
Conceptual style. People tend to be very broad in their outlook and consider many alternatively. Those who make decisions with conceptual or big picture thinkers who are willing to take risks. They evaluate different options and possibilities with high tolerance to ambiguity. They social-oriented and take the time to consider big ideas and creative solutions. For example, Joey's startup a retail company is performing during their first year. He thinks about how the company can open stores nationwide in the next 5 years. Although it's risky to open a new store, you are confident with your team will be successful, and this will help launch your brand nationally. This means you already picture out the future of your business and who are willing to take risks. Behavioral. A behavioral style of decision-making focuses on relationships more than the task. It evaluates the feelings of others as part of their decision-making process. Behavior decision makers have a low tolerance for ambiguity and a social focus, and they evaluate solutions. These decision makers rely on information from others to guide what they choose. They are pursuable communicators who value decisions based on team consensus. Their decisions are often based on how the choices will impact relationships. This means you don't always consider your opinion as a leader. You should also base your employees' opinions also.
Routine decisions. As the name suggests, routine decisions are those that the manager makes in the daily functioning of the organization. Such decisions do not require a lot of evaluation, analysis, or in-depth study. In fact, high-level managers usually delegate these decisions to their subordinates. Strategic decisions. Strategic decisions are the important decisions of the firm. These are usually taken by upper and middle-level management. They usually relate to the policies of the firm or the strategic plan for the future. Hence, such decisions require analysis and careful study because strategic decisions taken at this level will affect the routine decisions taken daily. Program decisions. Program decisions relate to those functions that are repetitive in nature. These decisions are dealt with by following a specific standard procedure and are usually taken by lower management. For example, granting leave to employees, purchasing spare parts, etc. are program decisions where a specific procedure is followed. Non-program decisions. Non-program decisions arise out of unstructured problems. In other words, these are not routine or daily occurrences, so there is no standard procedure or process to deal with such issues. Usually, these decisions are important to the organization. Such decisions are left to upper management. For example, opening a new branch office will be a non-program decision. Major and minor decisions. These are classified as the type of decision-making in management where decision related to purchase of new premises is a major decision. These are taken by top management, whereas the purchase of stationery is a minor decision. Minor decisions can be taken by the superintendent.
Policy decisions. Tactical decisions pertaining to the policy and planning of the firm are known as policy decisions. These are usually reserved for the firm's top management official. They have a long-term impact on the firm and require a great deal of analysis. Policy decisions are those that determine how we will act in the future, how we do this, and what will guide our actions. A policy decision tells us how to make choices in order to act in alignment with our purposes and goals. These are made with the consent of the people who will put the policy into operation. Operating decisions. Operating decisions are necessary to put the policy decisions into action. These decisions help implement the plans and policies taken by the high-level managers. Naturally, operational decisions have to be taken care of by a manager in charge of the operations. And operating decisions are made within the context of longer-term strategic decisions, so that an organization strategy is always supported by its operating decisions. Organizational decisions. Organizational decision-making process is by which one or more organizational units make a decision on behalf of the organization. The decision-making unit can be as small as an individual, as a manager, or as large as the entire organizational membership. When an executive takes a decision in an official capacity on behalf of the organization, this is an organizational decision. These can be delegated to subordinates. And why is it important? It is because it is very essential that our decisions are effective so that the organization can function in an efficient manner. Personal decisions. Personal decision is taken by the executive in a personal capacity, thereby affecting his personal life and does not relate to the organization. Obviously, these decisions cannot be delegated, and sometimes these decisions may affect the functioning of the organization if ever an executive leaves the organization. Individual decisions. When the decision is taken by an individual, it is categorized as an individual decision, and an individual generally makes prompt decisions. Usually, routine decisions are taken by individuals within the policy framework of the organization. Group decisions. Group decisions, also known as collaborative or collective decision-making, are taken by a group of individuals in the form of a standing committee. Generally, important types of decision in management are shifted to this committee. The main aim of a group decision is to involve the maximum number of individuals in the process of decision-making.